Hi everyone, welcome to Live. Today we're talking about threads and bobbins. Oh my. Let me get the camera on and we'll fix this right here. There we go. So welcome everyone. I'm going to wait here for just a moment. I think I'm a minute or two early. I thought I'd pop on a little early. Better a little early than, a little late. So that's why I'm here a little bit early. So anyways, today, yes, we're going to talk about threads and bobbins and thread storage and thread weights and things like that. So hopefully it'll clear up a few things for everyone or make you more excited about thread. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. If you're out there, I do have my comments on, so you can always comment, hello, let me know where you're from, or you can give me a thumbs up or whatever, just so I know that you're out there. And there's Marty. Hello. I have my iPad up off to the side. I'm going to be moving it with me today if I can, so I can see all my comments. And hi, Ann, another Ann out there. So yeah. All right. So it is 3 o'clock. So hopefully everybody can find us. I don't know if anybody's using the events on the Janome sewing machines page, but I did put all of our lives under the events so you can sign up, and you have to just go in on the Tuesday one. It'll sign you up for all the Tuesdays. There's a little tab for that. Same for the Wednesday, the Thursday, and the Friday. And even though Friday is Continental Club, it is going to be posted to the sewing machines page, and then sometimes we can stream it over, but they'll always bring it over there afterwards, just like I bring mine over to the AD page after a day or so. Oh, we have a couple more people out there. All right. Okay, let me see who's there. We have Diane and Julie, so welcome, welcome. All right, so let me get started. First, I'm going to show you how I store and organize my threads, my different types of threads, and then I'm going to show you those different threads and what they look like so we can understand the thread number. I know that confuses a lot of people, and we'll talk about that. We'll cover bobbins and some other things as we go along the way. And if you have questions or comment, just put it up there. If I don't see it right away, I'll catch it afterwards or somewhere along the line, and I will answer it that way. Let me get my other camera on so we can look at how I do my threads. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. All right. So we'll come back to this. This is some of the threads we're going to look at today. But I wanted to start over here where I have my threads stored. So this is just one area. This is my embroidery thread storage. And on the far side here, I have Marathon, and those are all sorted by thread number. And I do have the complete set of Marathon. That happened a while ago. And then I do have Janome threads here sorted by the poly and the acrylic. And then this here, this is my embellish. And so this is by, I'm not sure, I think it's by, I don't know if it's by Floriani, but this is Hope Yoder's thread, I believe. I love this thread for certain areas. It's not as shiny. You can see it's a matte finish thread, and it's an embroidery thread. So it gives a nice little finish to things when you don't want it to be so shiny. So I have those separated out. And then I do have some rayon threads that I've collected over the years. So these are, they are rayons, and the newer rayons, some of these might be old, but most of these are the newer ones. The newer ones are much stronger than they used to be. So a lot of people, we started with rayon, and then people went away from it to a poly thread. But the newer rayons are still, they have really good luster. So there are times when I like to use a rayon. I don't have as many, and they're from different companies, so I just have them in my drawer. And then the bottom two rows here are sorted by color. They're different brands all mixed up like that. So I have some Sulky, some Iris, I think there's some Robus and Anton in there. So anytime I have any mixture, I sort it by color in here. So this is if I'm looking for, say I can't find it in Marathon, I want a certain color pink, and I just can't seem to find the shade, I can look through there and find some that way. All right, let me see who else is there. All right. So I'm going to swing around so you get to see a little bit of my studio today. It's kind of a behind the scenes look here. So over here, I love storage. You can see I have a bunch of, let me back up so you can see that. I love storage. So over here, this tower here, this has my threads of different weights. These are more of my decorative threads. So at the top here, and I love my labeler. I'm sort of a crazy labeler. So I have my 3, 4, 5, and 6 weight threads here, and then 8 weight, 12 weight, and then they go down 20, 30, and then I have some variegateds that are, these are embroidery variegateds, but I use them a lot of times for decorative reasons. So I have them over here and keep them all in one spot. And then as we go down, I have an empty one here. I'm going to bring over my ribbons. I have some ribbon embroidery stuff. And I have some yarns in here, some thicker things. These are some thick metallics that you would have to use, either couch them on. And then I have my embroidery metallic threads here and here. Okay. I'm not afraid of metallics. I love to use a metallic thread. Some work better than others. Let me swing around here and get over to this side. So over here, I have 2 more cabinets, but I'm going to talk about the top part here. When I'm working, I do collect all my little thread ends and junk in there. But as I'm working, when I'm done with my thread, I do have some extra baskets here. I'll organize my thread, but then when I'm done, I put them all over here. And then when I'm ready, I sort them back into where they belong. And then I have extra spool holders. I'm kind of collecting this year my empty spool holders. So over here, these are basically, this side is sewing threads and specialty sewing type threads, and these are my serger threads on this side. So this is regular sewing thread. These are some specialty threads. I have some silk, monofilament, and I'm going to show you some of those when we go to look at threads. Down here, I have some other thinner threads, and then I have a couple drawers of quilting threads. So some like from Superior, Robeson Anton, and other places like that down there. So that's kind of how I do it. Now, when I first started organizing my threads or buying threads, I kept them in, those plastic Matchbox cases. Do we remember those? I'm going to move my comments over so I can see them because I have my back to them right now. So hang on one second while I get the camera in its little spot. And hopefully I didn't make anybody too sick moving the camera around. It's always difficult to be a one-woman show here. All right. So when I first started, I did start with those plastic containers, and I had them organized by color number or whatever, and you have to flip one over and flip one back and open and close and open and close. And I just found it very cumbersome. And when I first started, it wasn't bad because I didn't have that much thread. But as I started to collect thread, and I decided I really need a better way to do it. And I came across the metal cabinets that I use are from IKEA. Those are Helmer, Helmer. And I found that they work the best for those cones. I have other drawer units from IKEA as well, but the drawers don't come all the way out. These metal drawers, I can pull the whole drawer out and set it down and look at all the stuff in that drawer. So I don't have to rearrange anything to get in and out of there. So I really, I've just kind of fallen in love with those drawers. So I do like them. All right, so let's talk about thread weight. So when you're looking at threads, a thread with a low number, like a 3, is a thick weight. And a thread with a high number, like 100, is a thin weight. So it's a little opposite of the way we might think, but that's the way it is. So let me show you some of these up here. I'm going to start, these are my thick ones down here. So this is a 3-weight thread right here. And you can see it's almost like a yarn. Okay. This is a 4-weight thread here. And then this one here, this variegated, is a 5. So you can see those weights. We're getting a little thinner. This is a 6. This is an 8. These are still very thick right here. And then we go into the 12. So the 12 is a bit thinner. You could put a 12-weight thread with a size 16 needle. You could use this in the needle. These here, you would have to maybe couch them on this one, or use them in your serger, or with a couching foot. Let me show you a couple feet that you could use. We do have these pin tuck feet or cord feet, so you can put the cords, run them under here, and then they have a nice wide opening there, so you could do a decorative stitch and put them on with a decorative stitch. And I think we had a video on this past week by Susan Enderson, so you might have to go back through and look at them. It might have been yesterday's or Tuesday's video on there. Then I've used these when in a pinch. This is a beading foot. So there's a little channel. I'm going to put it on top of here so you can see. Let's put it here. There's a little channel there that your thread can run through. So you can couch that down, or maybe you twisted two of them together or something like that. Maybe you'd use this in a metallic together and you want to couch over them. That's a great way to go. You can use a beading foot, and they come in a pack, and there's a narrow and a wide beading foot. Then we have these cording piping feet. These have little channels under there, so you can handle heavier things with that. And you can only use mostly a straight stitch on here. So you really would be limited to what you could do with this foot. But maybe you wanted to run this along something else that was thick. You might be able to get something to work with that. And then this one here is the ribbon sewing foot. We have another foot it's more of a plate, called the ribbon sewing guide. This is the ribbon sewing foot, and it has little channels here. You can see the little openings up here, and you can run ribbon through there, but you could also run your cords through there, and then you could use a decorative stitch here. So there's different options, that you could use for different feet. You can always use a embroidery couching foot. I love to do some couching. Here it's a smaller hole, and there's a way to get your thread through there, and a guide that comes with it. So on your embroidery side, you could use these as well. And then if you do free motion, you can use them with a free motion couching foot. Okay, so those are kind of nice to do too, depending on what you're working with. Sometimes it's fun to take a couple of threads. I have some metallics back here, to take some of these and twist them with other threads, and use them with some of the other feet on there. All right, so let me move down here. So now we're getting in. This was our 12. This here is a 20. So these are all, we can use these in the needle of our machine. This is a 20. This is from Wonderfill, and it's called D-Twist. So it's not a variegated, but it's threads twisted together. It gives a really pretty look. This here is Sulky. It's a 30 weight. This is a cotton 30 weight. So you could use this, for decorative stitches. Even if you wanted, you could piece with it too. But you can use it for your top quilting, top stitching, things like that. And then we get into this turquoise one. This is a 40 weight embroidery thread. So we're starting to go up in numbers. This is a 50 weight cotton, so we're going to be a little thicker than our 40 weight here. And this thread here, this is one of my favorite threads. This is a 60 weight thread. It sort of stands out to me. And it's great if you do any of the micro Gothic lettering that's in our machines. This is the thread you want to use. And this is by, I believe, Madeira, but other people, I think Wonderfill has some 60 or 80 weight threads you can use as well. And you use a size 9 needle. All right, you want to use a size 9 needle and not use your threader. If you get into some of these, well, your 20s are probably okay, but some of these I think are kind of thick sometimes. So always be careful when you go to your threader. If you think your thread is, embroidery thread is good, but these two, depending on how your threader's working, this might be a little thick. Just be careful on that part. But I'm always careful about what I use, or maybe go up a size in the needle. Needles are important along the way too. You do want to make sure that you're choosing the proper needle to work with your threads. So this is great. It's a thin thread. It's good for that. Well, we even had some micro embroidery at one time too. This is great for that. Now the two that are here, this one here is Deco Bob. It's an 80 weight thread, typically used for bobbin thread. But if you needed a thin thread for something, maybe you were doing an applique that you didn't want it to show, and you didn't have anything, you didn't want to use monofilament, this might be a good one to use. The other one that's next to it, this is Invisifil. It's 100 weight. So that's very thin. This is great for applique. So if you're doing an applique project and you don't want your stitches to show, this is a great thread for that. It kind of blends in. You can use this sometimes for stitching in the ditch of a quilt so that it just kind of falls, and I have it as a gray here so you can see it better. It just falls into that ditch very nicely. I mean, if you stitched with one of these, even if it was the color you were using, it would probably show a little bit more. This here like drops in there and works just beautifully. Back here, I have some decorative or specialty threads over here. So this is our monofilament, and we all love monofilament, right? You can barely see it there. So monofilament is wonderful. I've sort of switched on some of my things. I'll use this here. This is Invisifil, the 100 weight over a monofilament. I do like a monofilament in the top when I'm doing the hand look stitches that we have, when you do that shashiko look, hand look, you want to use a monofilament in the top and your decorative in the bobbin. Now, you can put monofilament in your bobbin, but I really warn everyone, when we have it in a classroom, I always tell people, you can wind it onto your bobbin. We do want to try to slow our machine down so you can go into your set mode and turn the bobbin winding speed down, because some of our machines have separate bobbin winders, like our Continental series. They have separate bobbin winders, and you can slow the speed down in your set mode because you want to wind slower because it stretches, and you only want to wind a quarter to a half of a bobbin. This is a very thin thread and it goes a long way. So if you fill a whole bobbin, two things are going to happen. The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to get stuck on the bobbin winder and it crushes the bobbin itself. So you tend to lose, your whole bobbin and all that thread. And also you've wasted, you've put a whole bunch of thread on there that you might not ever use, and it's stretched at that point. So I usually caution people, if you're putting it in a bobbin, a quarter to a half a bobbin at the most. And sometimes, when I go to teach a class or I'm a helper, I'm not usually the teacher, I'm usually the helper when we do these ones, and people bring their own thread and they have really, they might have something from Aurifil they really like, or maybe a superior thread or whatever, other than what we have in the classroom. And I can't remember what we put in the classroom. We always have a variety of different things, but they want to fill their whole bobbin up. Some of those very thin threads are going to fill a bobbin, but last a very, very long time. So I always caution them, maybe you want to go about halfway, depending on the class. You might not be stitching that much, and now you've put all your bobbin thread on the bobbin that stays with our machine. So remember that when you're working. Now back here, these are fun threads right here. This is a glow-in-the-dark thread, and I just started using this for certain things. I love this. Different people make this. This one is by Superior. Wonderfil makes it as well. I'm trying to think if there's another one out there, but I really like these threads. I'll show you, I have one stitched out, you can see. They don't show the color as well in natural light, but when it's dark, they glow, and it's really fun. Very, very fun. And then this one here is Iron and Fuse. This is great when you're sewing your binding on. You can use this in the top. So if you like to sew your binding on the back and then flip it to the front, you would want to put this in your bobbin, and then, right, because it would be on you would want to put it in your bobbin. And then when you flip your quilt over and flip the binding over, the fuse thread is between the top of your quilt and your binding, and you can iron it in place. So it's great for that. Anywhere you need a little bit of help with holding something, the iron and fuse is great for that. This one here is Rinse and Gone. And there's other wash away threads as well. Don't mix this up for your regular sewing thread because you might have an oopsie happening. But Rinse and Gone is great for those times when you just need to hold something together. And then later on, it's going to be, you'll stitch it, you're stitching it, and then with your regular thread later or doing something to it later, and then this will be rinsed away. So you don't have to, like if you're putting in basting stitches that you don't want to pull back out. So this is great for basting in the hoop. So you can it'll just rinse away afterwards if you want to do that kind of thing. Some people will put it just in their bobbin for doing that. So they only have to, wet the back side, and then the top thread just comes right off. And then this one here, this is woolly nylon. So this is great in the loopers of your embroidery machine because it is kind of fluffy, and after when you're stitching, it makes that nice edge on, if you're doing napkins or roll hem, things like that, make a nice edge on there. This is the woolly nylon. You can use some of these thicker threads here too in a serger and this looks nice on the edge of something too. This is decor, Madeira decor, and this makes a nice edge too when you're edging something on your serger. Or even if you're doing a satin edging, if you used a bigger needle, you might be able to do that on your sewing machine with that. So that's a wide range of different threads. I'm sure I might have missed one or two. Before we go over to the bobbins, I want to look at my machine a little bit before we turn over there. So one thing, and I've mentioned this many times, one thing I really love is this is the thread stand that comes with your CM17. Okay, the post comes up, you can slide it down or whatever. This is the optional one that you can purchase. It's a 5-thread stand. I'm going to go to the side so you can see it. It fits on the back of your machine right where that little holder is. It's just for the CM17. You take the lid off and it slides on there, no screws at all. And I love this one back here. I put my standard threads that I'm going to use. You can see I have a gold, a red, a white, a black, and then I have this rainbow one, which I've been using a lot. But my favorite feature up here is right at the top. When you put your thread through here like that, you can cover the little gap so that your thread doesn't pop out. And then when you're not using that thread, like at the next one, this one here, right here, you can slide it over like that and the thread will be held there. It won't dangle down. The one thing you don't want is a thread to dangle down and get caught around this. All right, so if you have a thread hanging here and it's coming down, you don't want it to get in there. I do have a thread hanging out here right now, but I'm not sewing at the moment. I'm using that for a demo. But you do want to be careful. This is only for the CM17. I love these little clips at the top. If you want to do the clip your thread and pull through, you can slide this over there. It holds the thread taut. You clip it, pull it through your machine. It's all out of there. So I love that. And it comes off easily. If you have to take your machine, it pops right off the back. There's no screws. So that's my favorite. And I know it is a little bit expensive, but it is worth those 5 clips on the top are worth their money right there. And then up here, I want to talk a little bit about winding a bobbin. So when you go to put your bobbin on the spindle, there's a little spring on here. It's right under see if I can go sideways. There we go. See that little spring? When you put your bobbin down on there, you want to turn your bobbin so that it clicks into there, so that when you try to move your bobbin, it doesn't slide around. It's going to stay in that place. That's one of the great things to starting to have a nicely wound bobbin. And then you're going to take your thread here, go up to this one. You go behind number 2, around the tensioner, and then over here to your bobbin. Now you can do 2 things when you get over here. The new way is to take your thread and wind it around here. And I usually go, 6 or 8 times around. And then I tuck the tail in here like that. It's a little thread cutter under there, a little blade. And then I would push this in and push my bobbin winding button. So I like doing that. And the reason they went to this new system is and you could do it the other way, it's not a problem, but when the other way is to put your thread up through the hole and hold it while it's winding, right? And then you cut it either breaks off or you cut it flush with the top of your bobbin, which is great. But as you start sewing, sometimes when your bobbin gets near the end, that little tail starts popping up and it comes out like this, and it could catch, as your top thread comes over like this, the hook brings the thread over. That little thread, I always say that little thread likes to go places. So it'll hitch a ride on that top thread. And that's when it pulls your bobbin up, your bobbin case, and makes a big mess. So you can still do that, but just be aware of where that thread tail is as you sew along and trim it as you go. Make sure you really get it trimmed so it does not leave that tail to keep coming up. You don't want it to get caught on anything. Okay, so that's my pro tip on winding a bobbin. That's what that is. The other thing is almost every one of our machines have a thread cutter right here. So after you wind your bobbin, you can take it off of there, come over here and go like that. Well, if you had tension on anything, there we go. well, with two hands maybe. There we go. You can trim your bobbin off just like that. It's very handy to have that there. It's hard to do it one-handed when you're talking and holding a camera at the same time. So I'm going to go back over to the table, and I'm going to move my comments one more time, hopefully, and then we're going to talk about a little bit more about bobbins and bobbin storage. I'm going to move my camera a little bit here so it comes down, and I have some bobbin storage ideas for you. So how does everybody store their thread or organize their thread? You guys have a little chat. Tell me how you do it. What do you do? Because I'm always open to new ways of storing or new ways of organizing. So with my bobbins, you know, they do have these. So you can put your full bobbins, empty bobbins on these rings, right? They come in different colors. So maybe you would put embroidery bobbins on here on this one, and a different color put sewing thread bobbins, or your embroidery you know, your bobbin thread for embroidery on another one. I found these at Target. These are ice cube trays, and so I started using these. I really like them. I do a lot of embroidery, so I always like to have my bobbins ready to go. So, and most of these are pre-wounds. I use a lot of pre-wounds. I do wind my own, but I really like a pre-wound. There's more thread on a pre-wound than you can wind on your own. So I do like to use the pre-wounds, and I use Janome pre-wounds. I also like these, the Wonderful Deco Bobs. These are really nice as well. I think the last time I emptied one of those, these are the J bobbins that are under here. They have the little J on them, so those are great. And then I have, you know, this one here. This has embroidery thread colors on it. And I used to just do it this way, but then I started doing something like this, and I'm going to hold this up like that. And so here's my spool. These are little hair scrunchies. And then what I do with my matching bobbin is I use a golf tee in the top there. There's my golf tee, and I just stick it down in there. So now they stay together. And in the drawers that I have, it does fit in my drawer. That's the only thing. You'd have to make sure it fit in there. But they do make different things to attach to the top of a spool to hold your, you know, your bobbins that you have. You also have these kind of things, these thread wraps. This happens to be a Wonderful one. These are vinyl, and they kind of just like cling there. I had some, excuse me. I have some of the vinyl ones that I cut from a long time ago that I've used. I'm going to use this one here. And this is a real skinny spool, and they just go around like that. And this one's too big, but it would just cling wrap on there. So you can do that kind of a thing. That holds them. When I see these things in the dollar store, I usually buy a whole bunch of them. Even when they get stretched out, I put them on my bigger spools as well. These can go on your bobbins too. If you wanted to control the thread on your bobbin, you could put it on your bobbin as well. They work out really good. These come from Janome, these little boxes like this. You can get these filled with bobbins of different colors. Like these are the red ones we used to have. I think those are the red. And this is the blue that we have. We have some blue ones now too. So sometimes these are a special run. They are all the J bobbins. So, and the thing with the J bobbin, I don't know if anybody knows, there's a little bit more of the rubber or composite in the bobbin that makes it spin better, and it reduces a little bit of the clatter, the backlashing that you might have. So that's what the J bobbins are for. So these are all bobbin threads that I've wound, and this one over here these are Deco Bobs over here, and these ones were from a spool of another spool brand that I had over here on my clear ones. So I did them separately. So that's kind of how I keep all of those things. I'm going to show you a couple of things I've stitched out so you can see what decorative threads do. This, if you haven't done it, this is sort of like my messy couching with a kind of wild yarn. So I did this free motion, and this yarn was kind of odd. So free motion was the way to go because it was fuzzy in some spots and thick and thin, and it had metallic. It was like wrapped around, different threads wrapped together. So it's very weird. And then, of course, I've done embroidered couching, which I really love. This is more organized. So the flower in the center is organized. And then this is just regular embroidery threads that I've used a decorative thread to sew my little appliques on. Here's some metallic threads. I did tell you I love metallic threads. I'm not afraid. This is done in the embroidery machine, and I love using metallic threads. Another one that I did with metallic. This is not puffy foam under, these look thick. These aren't puffy foam. This is the 3D, 4D effect in Artistic Digitizer where it stitches, it makes rows of stitching and builds it up over thread. So there's no foam in there. And then this one here, I wish I could turn the lights out so you could see it. This is my trick or treat bag, and trick or treat is in the glow in the dark thread. And then I don't think I did, oh, and on the handle, I did this part in glow in the dark thread. So that was kind of fun. It's kind of fun to work with that thread. If you get a chance, get a little bit of that. It's always fun to work with. I'm going to put the other camera back on, and I'm looking at my comment. I don't have any comments. So what does everybody think about thread? Do you understand a little bit about the numbers on thread? Like a low number is a thick thread, and a high number is a thin thread. And of course, when you when you look at needles, it's a low number is a smaller needle, smaller eye, and a big number is a bigger eye. So you kind of have to, and when you're working with different threads, the needle is very important. That'll help you tremendously in trying to stuff a thick thread through an eye that's not going to go. So make sure you're doing that kind of a thing. Let me check on our time here. Oh, we're doing pretty good. All right. I think I covered everything. Bobbin, storage, thread, my favorite thread stand back there. What else can I tell you? I think that's everything. I love playing with threads, and I don't know what it is. I kind of did it for a while and I got away from it. Now I'm back into playing with some decorative threads and doing some fun stuff with that. So, experiment out there. When you attend shows, there's different thread booths, so you can go over and sometimes they have sample packs. That's how it really started with me. I got some sample packs that had like 3 or 4 different weights of thread in there, and I thought, what do I do with this? And then I started to figure out what to do with it. There's also a thread, and I don't have my sample, that I think it's from Sulky, and I think it's called, I want to say Vilene, but that might be wrong. When you stitch, after you stitch it, you can embroider with it, and then you can rub it with a little brush, and it furs up. It's really cute. Or you can leave it thick like yarn. So it's really a neat yarn thread, and it's from, that one is from Sulky, because I know I got a little sample pack of that, and I played with that a little bit, and that was really fun. So, and I know almost everybody has, YLI has some different threads, Aurifil has some different weight threads, things like that. So experiment with your threads. I'll try anything, even in my embroidery machine. As long as I have the right needle, I may have to change my speed. I might have to change the design to match what I'm doing. If you have a thick thread, you can't have a very dense design. That's just not going to work. So, you have to think about all of those things while you're working with your stuff. All right, everyone, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for joining me today as we talk about bobbins and threads. Oh my. Oh, and I do this too. I don't know how many of you do this. Let me grab my little bucket. I do store my thread ends, for that project we're going to do someday with the thread ends and make something. We are going to do it one of these days, and we get enough of them. We'll do that. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have a question after we're over, put them in the comments. I'll come back and check on those, and I'll see you again next week. I'll be back again. Bye for now.